Hey, welcome back to the game room. It's day 2 of the 12 Days of Christmas. I'm stoked that you're here because today I'm going to take you through how I built all the shelves in my game room, why I designed them the way that I did, and I'm going to show you how you can build the same ones in your game room too. Stick around, this is going to be a good one. So the design behind my shelving is all based on a super minimalist idea and also like space saving and compact. I don't have a ton of space in my game room, and so having shelves that don't waste any square footage was absolutely of the utmost importance. I also really wanted to go for those long linear lines and sort of that library vibe. I got the idea, as I've credited him before, from Mr. Mort of Mort's Garage fame. I loved the way his shelf looked in all of the videos that I could find of his game room back in the day, and I really went off that design for my shelves too. Alright, I'm going to take you through my shopping list. First off, we have cedar 1x6. You can buy this in any length that you want, and make sure that when you're at the store, you're picking out the best pieces you can find. Obviously, less waste is better, and you're going to save money if you're not having to waste as much cutoff. So measure the length of shelf you want first, and then pick a length that makes sense for you. I've got brackets. These are metal brackets. I use a 4-inch bracket because they don't stick out any further than the edge of the shelf, but they're going to give you lots of support for whatever you're storing. These screws are a 1/2 inch by 10. They work really well because they do not push through the board, and yeah, they do a nice job gripping wood because they're not too thin of a screw. Also, last but not least, and this one is optional, I have a piece of door jamb. This is the cheapest one I could find. I think it's a primed pine, and if you can find anything cheaper that works for you, I'll explain to you as we get into it why we're grabbing all these pieces.
Okay, let's talk about this shelf build, and I tried to make them as simple as possible, so let's get into it. Okay, step number 1 is pretty straightforward. You want to measure the space that you have available and make sure that your board for your shelf is cut to length. You can save a little bit of money by buying a shorter board and having to cut less. You'll have a lot less waste, which is pretty straightforward. If you don't have a saw at home, they'll actually cut these boards to length for you at the hardware store, most places anyway. A handsaw is pretty cheap if they won't do it for you. Alright, our boards are cut to length, and I also went ahead and cut this door stop to length. This stuff functions as that backstop behind the shelf. I really like this. It's probably my favorite part of this design, mainly because when all of your games are on the shelf at the same time, they don't stick out one any further than the other. They are always stuck out exactly the same amount, no matter where they are on the shelf. I'm just going to make sure I know exactly where the center of my stud is, and I usually, once I find that, take my level and get everything on center and just draw a really faint line so that I can hit that all the way down. I can go back and erase it later. If you don't have a level, no problem. Just take a stud finder and use it across and mark all the way down the wall, and you'll be able to find the center all the way down. We're basically just going to figure out how high we want our bracket to be, and we're going to measure that with the shelf on it. Now, generally, a good rule of thumb that I found works really well is if you get your game exactly where you want it, give yourself a game width this way underneath it, and it'll all line up perfectly. Alright, that's not going anywhere. I can get it situated exactly where I want it later. I'm not too worried about that right now. That first bracket's in place, and getting the second one is probably the easiest part. Basically, I need to grab the next shelf that I'm going to put in place, line everything up. I'm going to stick my second bracket exactly where I want it. And this step is way easier if you have a level. You can use another game on this side if you want, but I like to put a level on the shelf. I'm holding this bracket up with my other hand, and once everything is exactly where I want it, and my bracket is on line with the stud, I can grab a screw and send this one home too. Okay, and we're all set to go. That's almost the end of the job. Now, typically what I like to do with these backstops is I like to pull the whole shelf off and hit it from the opposite side with a nail gun. And it's really just there as a stopper, so we're not going to stress whether or not it's actually stuck to this board right now. If you wanted to use a little bit of carpenter glue, you could absolutely do that though. Since we're not going to be air nailing our backstop to this board, I want to put a lot of pressure against the wall while I send this screw up on the underside. You definitely don't want to over tighten these ones. They will just start spinning around in the wood. They're just a short screw, so don't over tighten these guys.
That shelf's in there. The backer is definitely not gonna come out. I could push it out if I really wanted to, but it's being pinched in there and it's not gonna move. So this is perfect just like that. One more tip at this stage, if these boards, you probably saw me in the shopping part of this video looking to see if these boards had any warp or movement to them. It's really important to take your boards when you're at the store and look straight down them just to see if they have any sort of warp. If they are boat shaped at all this way, you definitely want to install your shelf so that the boat is facing up. If the boat is kind of down and it's got like an arc to it, your games are going to wobble on the shelf. So it's okay if the boards aren't completely straight, but if they do have a little bit of a boat shape to them, which this one definitely does, you want that boat shape pointing up so that when games are sitting on the shelves, they sit nice and flat and they don't rock back and forth. This was actually the last set of shelves that I needed to build in my game room, and they're done. I'm stoked. They look fantastic. If you're sticking around tomorrow for day 3 of the 12 Days of Christmas, I'm going to show you what's going on this empty shelf that I've left. There's a space there. I've got something really special for it that I'm stoked to get into the game room. And stick around tomorrow. Sub if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. Likes, comments, all that stuff goes a long way into helping my channel grow. I appreciate it, and I will catch you tomorrow.